The bourgeois class has been subjected to social control through competition and co-option in both professional and private life. This is due to the fact that individuals only earn trust by serving the community and admitting to recognized groups, such as Freemasonry or Skittles clubs. Being a member of anything is seen as arousing suspicion, and individuals experience themselves only as socially mediated. The institutions made by people are further fetishized, as subjects feel they are part of something divinely ordained. This leads to a sense of being a doctor's wife, a faculty member, or a chairman of a committee of religious experts. This consciousness is the truth, but the negative truth becomes a lie as positivity. The social division of labor has led to estrangement, dehumanization, and the extinguishing of the subject. The concept of genocide was coined in English to describe the unspeakable acts of the Nazis against Jews. However, it was codified in the International Declaration of Human Rights, making the unspeakable commensurable for protest purposes. Negotiations may take place in the United Nations Forum on whether new atrocities fall under the heading of genocide, whether nations have a right to intervene, and whether the concept of genocide should be removed from statutes. The socialization of human beings today perpetuates their asociality and prevents even the social misfit from pride in themselves on being human. The concept of genocide has become a tool for protest and debate, with negotiations taking place in the United Nations to determine whether new atrocities fall under the heading of genocide. The concept of freedom has been manipulated, leading to the right of the stronger and richer to take from the weaker and poor. Language, such as German and English, often reserve the word free for things and services that cost nothing, indicating that there is no freedom as long as everything has its price. In reified society, things exempted from the price mechanism exist only as pitiful rudiments, often handouts with commodities or domination. For those who derive freedom as a privilege from unfreedom, language holds an apposite name: impudence. Relationships have also changed, with leave-taking obsolete, and people subjecting their lives to labor market conditions. The liquidation of parting is a matter of life and death to the traditional notion of humanity, as the inward does not unfold within itself, but only in relation to the objective. A humanity come of age must transcend its own concept of the emphatically human positively, otherwise, its absolute negation, the inhuman, will carry off victory. Gentleman's honor has been a means for men to soften the crudity of violence. By making the crudity of violence appear softened, men have made tacit promises to women who give themselves without marriage, preventing their own renunciation from rising to an unendurable pitch. This discretion has become the joyous source of all secrecy and artful triumphs over the powers that be, even of trust. Adorno highlights the tension between human right and the right of the divine, as well as the influence of manly discretion on women's actions. Upper-class women have developed techniques of isolation, keeping men apart and dividing all spheres of feeling, behavior, and valuation. This allows them to manipulate situations with ease, while also breaking the trust they once held in them. The pain at the decay of erotic relationships is not just fear of love's withdrawal or narcissistic melancholy, but also fear of the transience of one's own feelings. The idea that one will eventually understand their passion and meet the loved woman with curiosity is exasperating, as it breaches the context of rational utility and seems to help escape its monadic prison. However, passion itself is forced to reflect on the moment and recognize the nullity of its overwhelmingness. Adorno emphasizes the futility of happiness in the nonsensical thought of being carried away and the transience of life being concentrated to the utmost. The unhappy lover must admit that where he thought he was forgetting himself, he loved himself only. No directness leads outside the guilty circle of the natural, but only reflection on how closed it is. The split between outer and inner aspects of relationships affects the sphere of immediacy, even those without material interests. Each relationship has a double history, with the outer being a third between two people, and the inner being something solid and constant against individual psychology. This duality upsets authentic, effectively charged relationships, as the fear of the secret decay of relationships is often caused by those involved finding things too hard. In the realm of utility, every relationship worthy of human beings takes on an aspect of luxury, and resentment breaks through in critical situations. The inescapable duality of outer and inner upsets precisely authentic, effectively charged relationships if the subject is deeply involved, while the relationship's outward aspect prevents them from indulging their impulses. The relation is turned to permanent suffering and endangered. The absurd significance of trivia like missed telephone calls, stinted handshakes, and hackneyed turns of phrase threatens the relationship's objective concreteness. Psychologists may condemn the fear and shock of such moments as neurotic, pointing out their disproportion to the relation's objective weight. Depreciation is another issue that affects understanding and theory. Each thought is a force field, and the only true ideas are those which transcend their own thesis. The mental precipitate of social ossification opposes its own meaning, leading to the falsification of extreme radicalism as soon as they are insisted upon. This casts shadow over the concept of theory, as it harbors a moment of reification within it, developing paranoid features. Ideas related to their antithesis are not exempt from this reification, as even theories of the utmost dignity are prone to reified interpretation. If the theory is not of the utmost dignity, its reception can still render it paranoid. Thinkers lacking in the paranoid element have no impact or are soon forgotten. If truth were defined as the utterly non-paranoid, it would be impotent and in conflict with itself, but also unable to evolve a coherent structure of meaning. Dialectics must be seen as an attempt to escape the either-or, by rescuing theory's trenchancy and consequential logic, without surrendering it to delusion. The throttling of thought often involves two alternatives: empirical verification and the pursuit of evidence. Empirical verification can be easily foreseen through modest reason, while research is supposed to be like reportage. These alternatives lead to defeatism, as people do science as long as something pays for it, but have no faith in its relevance or binding. The official social sciences procedure is now a parody of businesses that keep such science afloat, while really needing it only as an advertisement. The self-induced motion of office work is called research only because it has no serious influence on material production or goes beyond it as critique. The spirit of this world plays by itself, selling tickets that lead nowhere. The assertion that employees will bring off their synthesis of theory and factual material is a foolish excuse that backfires on them in acknowledging the priority of practical obligations. The endless collegial hunt between hypotheses and proofs of social science is a wild goose chase, as each hypothesis breaks through the shaky far aid of mere facticity. For example, the regression of hearing can only be deduced from the social tendency towards the consumption process, as such, identified in specific traits. To make these the measure of knowledge would be to assume the extinction of experience and operate in an experience-free way while trying to analyze the change of experience. Research clings fearfully to the reified plaster cast of vital processes as a guarantee of correctness, whereas its only proper task would be to demonstrate the reification of the living through those methods' immanent contradiction. Dialectical theory often fails to depict positive images of society, as past traces deter them. Social utopias since Plato's time merge in a dismal resemblance to what they were devised against. Both ends and means cannot be formulated in isolation from each other, and dialectics should not be criticized for the antithesis of means and ends itself. Both are reified in bourgeois thinking, with ends as ideas and means as data of meaningless existence. The antithesis holds good for the world that produced it, but not for the effort to change it. Solidarity can call on us to subordinate not only individual interests, but even our better insight. Violence, manipulation, and devious tactics compromise the end they claim to serve, dwindling to no more than means. The subjects of the breakthrough cannot be thought of as an unmediated unity of the two. The dissident wholly governed by the end is now so thoroughly despised by friend and foe as an idealist and daydreamer that one is more inclined to impute redemptive powers to their eccentricity than to reaffirm their impotence as impotent. However, no more faith can be placed in those equated with the means. The subjectless beings whom historical wrong has robbed of the strength to right it, adapted to technology and unemployment, conforming and squalid, hard to distinguish from the wind jackets of fascism. The rescuers would be neither personalities nor bundles of reflexes, but least of all, a synthesis of the two, hard-boiled realists with a sense of higher things. When the constitution of human beings has grown adapted to social antagonisms, heightened to the extreme, the humane constitution, sufficient to hold antagonism in check, will be mediated by the extremes, not an average mingling of the two.